Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Man, oh man, ladies and gentlemen, now it is getting good. It's getting good everywhere out there. I have just about laughed myself into paralysis here about 10 minutes ago when Snerdley brought me something that's in the New York Daily News today that I missed. It explains why I'm trending at the top of Facebook's news, whatever it is, on the lesbian farmer story. When you hear this, I don't know that I'm going to be able to explain this to you without cracking up. And then, who knew? You mentioned what's like to be Jeb Bush today. Who knew? I'm sorry, folks. She's a bigot. Who knew? First, they tried Marco Rubio. They tried the Gang of Eight. They tried Jeb Bush. They tried any number of people to convince. They tried me. They sent emissaries to the EIB Southern Command. They tried everybody they could think of to try to convince the Republican base to support some form of amnesty for illegal immigrants. And I'm sorry. Who knew? I know it frustrates you to hear me. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, regain my composure. Who knew that it would be Donald Trump to come along and convert the GOP base to supporting amnesty the same week Ann Coulter's book comes out? Poor Ann. Oh, my God, she's got this book, In Trump We Trust. And in it, she says the only thing that could cause Trump any trouble whatsoever is if he flip-flops on abortion or on immigration, goes amnesty. And it looks like he's getting close to it. And she's out. She's just beside herself with this. I mean, what timing? Greetings, my friends. It's great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone, 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, you know, send an email. We have a new email address. It is lrushbo@eibnet.us. Pardon me, I have to dry my eyes here. I was watching CNN today. You know, I really like the Trump spokeswoman, Katrina Pearson. Pardon the sniffles, folks. I really, if Snerdley hadn't shown me this, I would have totally missed it. I really like Katrina Pearson. I think she goes in there and stands up for Trump against all kinds of odds. And so she's on CNN today. And the subject in the roundtable is Trump's near flip-flop. Not all there yet, but near flip-flop on amnesty. And this whole notion that he's softening his position on immigration. They asked her to explain what Trump's doing. And she said, well, he hasn't changed his thinking on this. He's just changing the words that he's using. I stared at the TV, and there were 4 other people on the panel, and they started laughing and tried to stop. They started smirking. They had to go to a commercial break early because nobody could keep a straight face. After, no, he's not changing what he thinks at all. He's just changing the words that he is using. Well, we'll get to that in the great detail that only we can do here at the EIB Network and offer the perspective that only we can offer. But first, you remember yesterday, I was informed that I found myself to get at the top of the, what is it called? The top of the Facebook trending, whatever it is. I'm up there at the top, and it's over the story we had 1 week ago about the Agriculture Department making financial grants available to lesbians if they would become farmers. Okay, hang on just a second here, folks. I've got to blow my nose. I mean, really, I have been in uncontrollable mirth here. Thank you, and pardon me for that. People watching on the Ditto Cam could see me blow my nose, but they couldn't hear it. So I said, okay, why now, though? Why has this taken a week? So Snerdley walks in here today, and he's carrying a news story that he's printed out, and he's holding it so that I can't miss it. It's a New York Daily News story. Rush Limbaugh warns Obama regime is sending government-paid lesbian farmers to invade red states. I looked at it. What in the world is this? And Snerdley said, they are livid. They are as angry at you as they have ever been over anything, except what for? He said, read it. You'll see. So the thing that puzzled me about this was I didn't make anything up. I barely even added to it. I mean, I could have used all kinds of lines about zucchini, but I didn't. You know, I tried to keep it all above board, talking about lesbian farmers invading red states. It was a Washington Free Beacon or Washington Examiner story a week ago yesterday about an event that actually took place in Iowa where the Department of Agriculture is indeed offering grant money to lesbians and others if they'll go out in rural areas and start farming. Did the story, been there, done that, moved on. It shows up number one, trending at Facebook, and then I hear late night comedians are talking about it. Then I see this story, and it's just hilarious. In his latest crazy on-air rant, conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh accused the regime, I've got it in parentheses, the Obama regime, of trying to unleash on red states a scandalous scourge of lesbian farmers. What they're trying to do is convince lesbians to become farmers, he told listeners. There's a specific sinister motive to the shift, Limbaugh claimed, ruining conservative voting blocs. Snerdley, what do you think it is that has them so dang mad about this? Here. Then they quote me on this, and they quote me accurately. They say they're trying to bust up one of the largest geographically conservative regions in the country. It's rural America. Rural America happens to be largely conservative. Rural America is made up of self-reliant, rugged individualist types. They happen to be big believers of the Second Amendment. Okay, said that, quoted me accurately. And then they keep quoting me. So here comes the regime with a bunch of federal money, and they're waving it around, and all you got to do to get it is be a lesbian and want to be a farmer, and they'll set you up. And then I said, I'm like you. I never before in my life knew that lesbians wanted to be farmers. And I suspect what really ticked them off was my next line. And like I say, I could have thrown in things like about zucchini and carrots and any number, but I didn't. I kept it above board. The next line was, I never knew that lesbians wanted to get behind the horse and the plow and start burrowing. That's probably what ticked them off. I never knew that lesbians wanted to get behind the horse. I even laughed at my own line when I read it. I never knew it, but apparently enough money made it happen. Limbaugh's atrocious rant on August 17th, which just started gaining traction online over a week later, was sparked by the Iowa LGBT Rural Summit. For the Des Moines event, the USDA collaborated with LGBT groups to educate the gay community about a variety of policies, including rural housing loans, community facility grants, and bullying, according to the event website. The Washington Free Beacon fanned the flames of lunacy with an August 16th article titled Feds Holding Summits for Lesbian Farmers. Limbaugh took that and ran with it. There's nothing that I said that isn't true. In fact, they, in the New York Daily News, provide more information about this than I did. And the information they provide actually crosses T's, dots I's, and exclamation points the things that I did say about it. The all-day summit will teach lesbian and transgender hillbillies how to get subsidies from the government like rural housing loans and community facility grants. That's what the newspaper wrote. I didn't say that. The Washington Free Beacon did. Limbaugh took that and ran with it. And they quote me again. You sit in there and you laugh. Okay, go ahead and laugh at it, but I'm telling you what they're doing. And then they talk about how Twitter heard about it and erupted in anger and outrage and humor. And it shows up number one on the Facebook, whatever it is. And then Conan O'Brien, this is last night on his show, audio soundbite number one. Didn't even know this until today.
Rush Limbaugh said something pretty interesting. Rush Limbaugh is saying that President Obama is encouraging lesbians to become farmers. President Obama is encouraging lesbians to become farmers. Yeah. Then someone explained to Rush, that's just how lesbians dress.
So O'Brien, Conan O'Brien making fun of the lesbos, not me. His joke, he makes fun of the lesbos. And it makes it look like I'm naive and don't know how lesbos dress. But this woman at the Daily News, what's her name? Carrie Blackinger. I mean, the outrage is palpable. And I'm thinking, if Bill Maher had said exactly what I said, they would be suggesting he should get an Emmy for great humor and comedy and creativity in television or what have you. And I literally, when I saw this and I first read it, not knowing it was coming, I was out of control in laughter at so many elements. How angry they are over this when every aspect of it is true. Well, one thing, the one point that I made that is not in the Free Beacon story is, why is the regime doing this? The regime is doing this to invade rural America because it is a conservative outpost. Now, you can laugh or you can get mad at that, but Obama's doing the same thing to suburbia, which we have talked about at great length here with housing policies. And the upshot of that is, if you're a developer, say the Westchester County outside Manhattan, and if you want to build a new housing development, you have to, in order to get permits to build it, you have to build low-income, affordable housing as part of the development, or you're not going to be permitted. And it's all rooted in the fact that the left is really angry that people who had the ability to left the cities, went to suburbia, made their own lives, were able to escape whatever they didn't like about the cities, but the poor had to stay. Stanley Kurtz has written about this in a number of articles and I think even a book about one of the great hidden agendas of the Obama administration is the conquering of suburbia, because he doesn't like that what the suburbs really are is people who have fled the cities, and it's not fair that some have been able to leave the cities while others haven't. So this is to make it easier for people in the city to actually infiltrate suburbia. It's the same thing going on with the lesbian farmers. So I say, I could have cracked a lot of jokes that I didn't crack. I tried to keep this above board. I tried to keep this respectful. I tried to keep it family-oriented. I didn't go anywhere near the lines I could have. I could have done it with different words. I could have. It's amazing. There's no anger at the Washington Free Beacon for doing the story, and they're the source. And in fact, the event did happen. The regime does want lesbians to become farmers, and they're paying them to do so. They're offering grants. Okay. Now, some of you might be a little perplexed at my comment about Trump being the Republican to come along and convert the Republican base to supporting amnesty. We will explain this as the program unfolds. I'm going to tell you, Ted Cruz and the Cruz supporters are all over the place out there in Politico. Cruz is saying, we told you that every Trump policy has an expiration date, and it looks like Trump's immigration policy has just expired, and he is now adopting the policy that we all had. And Jeb Bush is out. Well, is it Jeb actually saying it or somebody saying it for Jeb? Yeah, Trump is out saying, don't doubt me on this. I'm going to fix it. And they say, well, that's exactly what Jeb Bush said. Jeb Bush's immigration policy is exactly what Trump's articulating now, including saying, trust me, I'll fix it. But it all leads to the question, will this cause a problem with Trump supporters? I've done an informal survey here, and apparently it won't. That's why I say, who knew that it would be Donald Trump to come along and convert the GOP base to supporting amnesty? I don't see a lot of people preparing to abandon Trump over this. Maybe Coulter. Who knows what she's going to do? I mean, her book hits, and it's just had the rug pulled out from under it. What else? There's a number of other aspects about this. Let me take a break. And give myself enough side time on the other side of this to keep going. But hang in there, folks, because we are just cracking the lid now. We'll see what's inside when we get back. Welcome back, El Rushmo. As always, having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. I don't think, including Trump, I don't think there's anybody that irritates the left more than I do. I know how to do it. I do it even when I'm not trying to do it. And I'm trying to do it. I know how to tweak them. I know how to irritate them, and it's fun. And it's even more fun when it happens and I'm not aware of it. I think, as I say, I'm even better at that than Trump is. Speaking of Trump, here's the Katrina Pearson soundbite that I mentioned. It was on CNN this morning. And here's who was on the panel. It was Amanda Cooper. She used to work for Cruise. She was a communications director. And Erica Hill. There were two others there. Maybe three, and a total of 5 people, including Katrina Pearson, and they all were on at the same time with headshots. And the question was to Katrina, how do you square these two? And I'm quoting, Trump says, I just want to follow the law. We'll work with them, meaning the illegal immigrants, which everybody up to now thought he's going to deport them. I mean, they got to go. They got to go. What people don't know, may not remember, and I'm going to remind you, is that Trump has said they're going to come back. But he has made it plain that they're going to be deported. And so Katrina Pearson was asked to explain what all this is.
He hasn't changed his position on immigration. He's changed the words that he is saying. What he has always said is that he does not want to allow people to stay in this country illegally. He does want to build a wall, but he wants to work with Congress to get things done. And that's exactly what he has said from the beginning.
Heard they were smirking, they were laughing, they were having trouble keeping a straight face when she said he hasn't changed his position, he's changed the words. And then she tried to explain what she means, and they laughed even more because somebody then spoke up as Katrina. He said, get him out. He's been very clear about that. This is a change. This is a shift. It's a flip-flop. It's an evolution, whatever words you want to use.
No, Erica, it's the how that's being discussed now. He's always said if they're here illegally, they have to go.
Before he talked about the how, and he said there would be a deportation force. So now he is shifting. Katrina, there is a definite different message that we're hearing now.
There's not a different message. He's using different words to give that message because everyone on the news is saying that he's a bigot and that he's a racist because of the words that he uses. Now he's simply saying, yes, we are going to follow the law. We are going to enforce the law, which ICE is, Immigration and Customs. They do remove people from the country who are here illegally. He wants to start with the criminals. I can point to several speeches he's given saying the exact same thing.
Okay, so her point is nothing's changed here. He's just changing the words, and he's trying to soften the way his policy sounds to people. But all he's going to do is what he's always said he's going to do. He's going to enforce the law. If they're here illegally, they're going to go. They got to go. They got to go. They're going to come back, but they got to go. And we're going to build a wall that Mexico's going to pay for. That's basically where it is right now. New polling data out. This is from thehill.com. Hillary Clinton leads Trump by 3 points in the latest national poll. It's a tighter margin than earlier this month. It's 47-44 Hillary. The poll is the Economist/YouGov online poll. Registered voters based on a head-to-head matchup. Hillary had a 3-point edge in the poll early this month, but she had expanded that to 6 to 7 points in recent weeks, now back down to 3 points. Headline should be Hillary loses half of her lead over Trump. But, of course, it never will be. I'll tell you, we had polls yesterday showing Hillary only up 2 in Florida. Maybe Trump was up 2 in Florida. The race is tightening. And what's amazing about the race tightening, and you can see this, the drive-bys in their coverage and even on some conservative websites that are never Trumpers, they're expecting, with all of the Trump softening and the slight modification of his position on issues, they are expecting massive abandonment of Trump by his supporters, and it's not happening. Now, I don't know what's going to happen yet with the immigration, which is being portrayed here as a flip-flop. And believe me, people are piling on now and claiming that Trump's position is no different than Marco Rubio's now. It's no different than what Jeb Bush's was. In fact, he's even using the exact words Jeb Bush used in a Telemundo interview, which Trump attacked. Trump attacked Jeb for being weak and gutless and this kind of thing. And now he's adopting Jeb lingo on this. And it remains to be seen that's why I said at the opening of the program, who knew that it would be Donald Trump that would finally bring the Republican base along into not outright objecting amnesty. And the reason for that is that Trump supporters are going to stick with him no matter what. Now, people argue why that is. I have my own theories as to why Trump supporters are loyal, and I know that my theories are pretty much dead on. And there are a bunch of reasons that explain it. One is, and in no order of priority, one is that a total opposition to Hillary Clinton. A lot of people downplay that, by the way. A lot of people say, no, Trump voters, they don't care. They don't care. It wouldn't matter. They're Trump, because Trump represents exactly what they hate about everything. It wouldn't matter if Hillary was the nominee. It wouldn't matter if they put John Kerry in. It doesn't matter who it is. The Trumpers would still be with Trump no matter what. Well, yeah, probably. But I'm warning everybody, do not make the mistake of believing that Hillary is not a factor in the support Trump has. She's huge, but there are other reasons as well. The New York Times has not published one word of that AP story. Hillary Clinton selling access. Over half the people that she met as Secretary of State paid for it. By the way, have you heard the way Hillary's team is attacking this? They're saying, well, but the AP left out all of the government people she met with. I mean, Hillary met with thousands of people at the State Department, thousands of people at the Defense Department, thousands of people in the executive branch. Well, exactly. That's what she should do. You shouldn't count them. That's what the job is. The AP's point was, of all the non-governmental people she met with, over half of them paid for it. There's no way they can spin this into not being a blockbuster story. And the proof of that is that the New York Times won't even cover it. The New York Times won't even mention it. From the Washington Post, Trump softening on immigration. Many of his supporters don't seem to mind. That's the headline. Trump has been signaling for days that he might be open to a softening of one of his most extreme immigration positions and no longer call for the deportation of 11 million immigrants living in the U.S. illegally. He and his aides seem to be testing the waters, setting off alarm bells among some conservatives who have rallied around Trump's hardline immigration stance. But judging from the rally-goers in Tampa yesterday and at an event Tuesday in Austin, many rank-and-file voters will give Trump relatively broad latitude to alter the parameters of his immigration policies. That's a wordy way of saying that Trump's supporters are not going to sell him out. Trump's supporters are not going to abandon him on this. They're not going to be talked into abandoning Trump. They're not going to believe what other people say in analyzing Trump about what he means. They're going to continue to believe Trump. And Trump is saying, my position hasn't changed. None whatsoever. We're going to enforce the law. If they're here illegally, we're going to send them back. Now, one of the things that happened, there was a town hall meeting last night on the Fox News Channel. It was Sean Hannity, a whole hour with Trump. And this was a one of the more incredible such events that I have seen. What happened was that in the midst of discussing all this, Trump started us off. He said, well, what do you think? We've got people who have been here 20 years. They've not broken the law. They've got kids. They've got families. I mean, you want to be compassionate. Maybe we don't send those people back. Then he turned around and asked the audience, what do you think? What do you think my policy ought to be? And that's the first. I've been trying to think if I can ever recall a presidential candidate anywhere turning to the audience at a rally or anywhere and asking, taking a poll, what his audience thinks that he ought to do. I'm used to candidates who know what their policy is and telling the audience what it is and trying to persuade the audience to understand it, agree with it, and help the candidate promote it. In this case, Trump turned to the audience on the town hall and said, what do you think? And a form of chaos ensued because there was massive disagreement among the audience members of this town hall last night. But you still have to remind yourself that Trump is outside the normal parameters of what people expect politics to be. Therefore, what happened last night with Hannity is, as far as Trumpers are concerned, no big deal. No big deal. This is all about standing out and being different from the scripted playbook of American politics. So who cares if Trump turned around and asked the crowd what they think he ought to do? We like that. That's refreshing, they say. Here's a candidate who cares what we think. Here's a candidate who's willing to factor what we think into this before he makes his decision. Here's a candidate willing to talk to us about his policy. So whereas the traditional blue blood establishment types are looking at this, oh, my God, this is a disaster. You don't do this. You don't do a town hall. You turn to the crowd and ask them what they think. People in Trump world don't see it that way at all, or many don't. I mean, there might be some who think, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't know, the guy doesn't seem sure of himself. And then the chaos. I mean, chaos did ensue, a mild form of chaos, meaning the audience, there were disagreements even among the audience, and they had to expend a little effort in getting things back under control. Still, there is no doubt that Trump is trying to change the way he is perceived on this issue. And people are eagle-eyeing this and asking themselves if this is going to have a killer impact on his campaign. Because this, immigration is viewed as the one issue, the issue that has made Trump, the issue that separated him from the pack. And if there is the slightest doubt among his supporters, the slightest fear that Trump is going to abandon his long-held position on this in any meaningful way, then what will they do? And while all this is happening, now polling data doesn't yet factor in the last couple of days, but while all of this is happening, the race is tightening. Hillary is losing ground in a lot of places, and Trump is gaining ground. And while all this is going on, Hillary is not looking good either. I mean, have you seen, we're not supposed to point this out. And I pointed it out the other day. I'm going to mention it to it again. I saw her at a personal appearance. I don't know if it was a rally. But it must have been scorching hot because every woman in the picture that I saw was wearing sleeveless tops, tank tops, what have you, shorts. And Hillary shows up in a housecoat, looked like a heavy housecoat, long sleeve housecoat, giant Captain Kangaroo type pockets, and slacks. And she showed up that way again. Then there's a picture of her getting into her SUV, and they have to put a stool down there for her to step on because it's too high for her to comfortably get in from the street. So all of the photos of Hillary Clinton, and these are things that create perceptions that nobody talks about, but impressions are made on people. And she does not present a picture of robust vigor, and vim and energy, and now she's actually linking Trump to the Ku Klux Klan. This is in response to Trump calling her a bigot. And by the way, that line was written. It was on the teleprompter, and he delivered it, meaning they wanted to say it. He wanted to say it. It didn't just pop into his head. He didn't go off prompter to mention it. So, I mean, this is getting more intense than anybody thought it would be at this time. I mean, this is August. You know, half the drive-bys are on vacation. This is the dog days. And yet it is intense as people expected it to be post-Labor Day. We have more. Your phone calls included, so don't go away, folks. We'll be right back. All right, look, let me take it seriously for just a second. I got some emails that I checked during the break. Rush, really? You laugh about it. Why are they mad at you over this lesbian farmer story? Why? And they are. If you read this New York Daily News story, I'm sorry, I couldn't stop laughing. I know it's frustrating to listen to somebody laugh as though they've lost their composure. I thought I did a good job of regaining my composure in a decent amount of time. But here's the real reason they're mad, folks, and I think it makes the point that I've always made. The reason they're mad, they think that it is stupid. They think it is, what's the word, conspiratorial, kooky, whatever, to think that Obama and the Democrats would dangle money in front of lesbians to have them become farmers and go to rural areas where mostly conservatives live. They think that's the stupidest thing they've ever heard. And why do they think that? Because, well, A, they're leftists and they're young millennials, and they have had no education. They've had no instruction in ideology. They don't know what liberalism is. They don't know how liberals work. They haven't the slightest idea. When somebody like me comes along and makes a statement like I made, yep, Obama, the USDA, dangling financial grants in front of LGBTs, lesbians included, encourage them to take the money and go out and be farmers. Okay, that's one thing. But then to tell people why, that's where they, how dare he think this is just about invading conservative, because they have never been instructed, taught, conditioned to understand liberalism. They think they know what conservatism is because it's bashed all the time. But liberalism is something that they've not had any instruction in. They have no understanding of the politics, of the ideology of liberalism. So, as millennials who are afraid of controversy and need safe spaces, they react in outrage to something that they don't understand and think that I am some kind of lunatic. When, in fact, if they would listen to me and just take a moment to investigate what I'm saying, they might actually learn something. Here's Scott in Houston as we start on the phones. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello, sir.
Hello, Rush. Yes, you hit perfectly on the Donald Trump turning to the audience. I've been yelling and screaming all morning at Good Morning America. Why aren't they covering that? That is George Washington. It doesn't matter what Trump thinks. It doesn't matter what I think. He wants to know what the people think, and I think that goes straight to our Constitution, we the people. I remember Governor Perry did the same thing with two things that he wanted, but us people here in Texas said we didn't want it. He's like, you know what? I'm for the people don't want it, and I changed that. Show me anybody in Washington that'll do that. And when that happened last night, I was so excited. I'm like, our country might actually come back to us.
Hey, wait a second now. Wait, just a second, because let me rephrase here so people know what you're talking about. On the town hall last night on Fox, during the discussion of immigration and deportation and quote-unquote amnesty, Trump turned to the crowd. It's a town hall meeting, and asked them what they think he ought to do. And you'll have to admit that a mild form of chaos ensued because there was disagreement among the crowd, and it looked for a while like they had lost control of the show. Now, I've had people, just so you know, Scott, tell me, and it's all anecdotal, and just to give you something to bounce off of here, a lot of people have told me they don't like that. They don't want a candidate that turns to the audience and asks what he should do. They want a candidate who knows what he's going to do, is confident about it, and is out trying to persuade other people to agree with him. But you are making my point. Trump turns to the people, hey, what do you got? And they love it. They absolutely love it because that to them is Trump listening to them because he cares, right?
Exactly. I had tears in my eyes. That's we the people. It's our country, and it's fascinating that they're not even covering that. That's ground shaking, you know.
Right, and so I happen to mention it because I have. Well, I knew it was important. I knew it was a big deal, and that's why you think. Well, I'm the only show here where you've heard this mentioned, right?
Rush, you have been in my life over 25 years, and I'm gonna start crying. But yes, man, thank you for everything that you have taught me. I mean, all my life. This 3 hours that I spend at work when I listen to you is the only time of day that life makes sense because people can't see. Can you see what's going on? I have a 10-year-old daughter that I want the America I grew up in. I want her to grow up in that. And they're changing it. You don't change the Constitution. I want everything that for my daughter to have.
Scott, I'm glad you called, and I thank you very much. You've been out there for 20 years, and it's obviously paid off for you. It's obviously been very beneficial. You're extremely informed, highly passionate, and very articulate. Honored to have you out there. We'll be back. Don't go away. I got an idea how to soften this whole Obama dangling money to lesbian farmers. What Trump could do is say he supports it, because we're going to need to replace some of the farm workers who are going to be deported under the Trump immigration policy. So he could come along and say, you know, I've heard about the administration dangling federal grants to lesbians to become farmers in rural areas, and we're going to need replacement workers out there. It might be a way, and he could broaden his base again in ways that would irritate the left. I mean, going after the lesbian and gay transgender movement? Whoa! Look at the potential that's out there, folks. Back in just a second. Greetings, my friends. Welcome back. Great to have you. I am your guiding light. I am America's real anchorman, the truth detector, the doctor of democracy. The 3 hours that you spend here every day, the only 3 hours when life makes sense. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program, and the email address, ilrushmo@eibnet.com. Now, not to beat a dead horse here. Maybe that's a bad choice of words. This whole business of the regime sending government-paid lesbian farmers, you would be stunned to know how long this has actually been going on. The LGBT Farm Summit in Des Moines was the 14th such summit in the past 2 years for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, on June 2nd, it hosted a summit in North Carolina. This all according to BuzzFeed. The campaign started, this whole idea of lesbians and LGBTs being granted Agriculture Department money to head out there and learn farming and so forth. This all got started back in 2014 with a summit at North Carolina A&T University at the Law Center there, the LGBTQ Law Center. And the goal is to help LGBT people, and lesbians are in that gang, is to help them sign up for the Agriculture Department's programs like food stamps and housing loans, which, quote, strengthen the daily lives of LGBT rural community members. So this is a 2-year plan that we are in the midst of. The Agriculture Department doing seminars on teaching lesbians and gays and bisexuals how to get food stamps, how to get money to head down to the farm. And they laugh at this in the drive-by media. They think it's atrocious, it's outrageous, it's demeaning. That Limbaugh would even talk about this, but there it is. Okay, back to the audio sound bites here. We left off at, let's pick up at number 2 here, because this is the drive-bys at the Fox Business Network, actually talking about my theory on Trump supporters and how they are immune to any criticism from the left, and how they are glued to Trump, and what it will be, if anything, that will cause them to abandon him. I don't think there is much of anything that'll make that happen for a host of reasons. But we'll start here with David Asman. Last night, the Fox Business Show, After the Bell.
While the mainstream media is predicting that a Trump shift on immigration is going to hurt him with his base, Rush Limbaugh today said such talk is just wishful thinking on their part.
Trump supporters don't care what he does or what he says, because there is no way they are going to do anything that helps elect Hillary Clinton. Now, a lot of people have taken that and said, well, you mean that they primarily support Trump because they oppose Hillary? No. Although there is some of that. I'm just here telling you that there is a significant number of Trump supporters who do not want Hillary Clinton to become president. They're not going to abandon Trump if it means that. Now, if you ask them if they get... See, this is what nobody's asking. You drive by, if you want to get to the bottom of this, let me tell you what to ask these people. Don't ask them if they're going to abandon Trump. Don't ask them that. You go ask them if you think this is hurting his chances to win. Because that's what the Trump supporters all want. They want him to win. Why is what you all have to learn. There are those of us who know why Trump supporters want him to win. People in the establishment, I think, are still in various stages of denial about people outside the establishment and their view of it. But if you want to do man-on-the-street interviews with Trumpists, don't ask them if they're getting upset or if they will turn on Trump or abandon Trump. Go ask them instead, is any of this making you worried that it's hurting his chances to win? And there you will get far more interesting answers, in my humble opinion. But it is a waste of time to even speculate, much less ask these Trump people straight on. So Trump is flip-flopping on abortion. Trump's flip-flopping on immigration. Trump's flip-flopping on this. Was the immigration that's really bad? Are you going to abandon? You're never going to get the answer you want there. But if you ask him, are you getting worried that he's hurting his chances to win? Well, now that, you drive-bys, you might be more intrigued by those answers if you approach it that way. Same show, David Asman speaking with a Republican fundraiser, Noel Nickper, and a Democrat strategist named Steve Murphy about me and my comments that Trump's softening on immigration won't cause him to lose too many followers. Asman plays the clip of me from yesterday's show, and then he says, so, can Trump soften his views on immigration and still hold on to his base? Noel, Rush thinks it won't hurt him with his base. What do you think?
I think two things. Number one, if you replace the word softening on immigration and replace it with something like reasonable immigration, I think when anyone runs for an office, they need to make bullet points. And his claim to fame was the wall and keeping out the bad guys, not keeping out everybody that wants to come to this country. So I think the fact that, he says he wants to soften it up a bit is only talking about people that, are here legally, that are in the country, that have businesses, that are already established.
Okay, so here, see what's happening? Look at the assumption. Despite what Trump has said about this, no matter what it is, the analysis there is, what he means is, he's got nothing against people here who are upstanding and behave and follow the law. He's got no problem with people who've been here, even if it's illegally, 20 years and have kids. He wants to keep the bad guys out. He wants to keep the rapists and the muggers and the purse snatchers and the thugs. That's who he wants to keep out. And he's not changed on that. Look, I've been there, folks. I've been there with Perroistas. You couldn't talk a Perot supporter out of supporting Perot no matter what you did. I know, because I tried. What it finally took was Perot getting out of the race. There was nothing you could do, no matter what Perot said, no matter what changes in policy Perot announced or didn't announce, no matter whatever faux pas he might have made in a speech, didn't matter. You weren't going to talk him out of it. And it's the same thing here with the Trumpists. And I think it's even stronger with the Trumpists. Now, the other guest is the Democrat strategist, Steve Murphy. And Asman said, okay, Steve, I want to talk about the sort of meme in the mainstream media is today that somehow Trump's going to be disillusioning his base by softening his views on immigration. Rush says no. That base is so anti-Hillary, they're not going to be shifted. What do you think?
I think Rush is probably right. I don't think his base is going anywhere, but it's also not going to expand one bit, and that's what he needs to do.
Well, that's what the Trumpists will tell you he is doing. That the quote-unquote softening is to expand the base of support. There's no question that's whether it's succeeding. Look, folks, all I can tell you is that the polls are tightening. And there's one thing inescapable here. Hillary Clinton is no prize. She has her own negatives. She has her own problems. She does not make a good impression. She doesn't have charisma, likability, any of that. Her negatives are very, very close to Trump's. And they know it. There's a reason they keep Hillary away from cameras and microphones and press conferences. There's a reason she only goes to fundraisers, and there's a reason there's only still shots made available of it. And if you don't doubt me, you're making a mistake. We have documented it. We have the evidence. We've researched it. We've looked at it. You can track Hillary Clinton's poll numbers. They go up when you don't see her. They go up when you don't hear her. The convention is an exception to this because, obviously, the convention is going to be its own bounds. But outside of that, the more Hillary shows up, the more she speaks, the more personal appearances she does, the worse her numbers get. They know it. The Republicans know. Everybody knows it. The drive-bys won't admit it, but they know it. It happens to be true. That's why the drive-bys are not clamoring for a press conference with her. They don't need to have a press conference. They don't care what she thinks. Everybody talks about the Trump supporters and how they won't abandon Trump. How about the drive-bys? You can't talk them into abandoning Hillary no matter what. Hillary can be as filthy, as corrupt as they are learning she is, and it doesn't matter. This cuts both ways out there, folks. People love to go out and say insulting things about Trump supporters because they're so dumb and so single-minded and so short-sighted that when they learn the truth about Trump, that they won't have been. I think that's even more the case with the drive-by media and Hillary Clinton. They don't care to have a press conference with her. There's nothing she's done or said they want to get to the bottom of. There's nothing she's done or said that they want to expose. There is no questionable behavior whatsoever as far as they are concerned. Their job is to protect her. And if that means making excuses for no press conferences, if that means, in the case of the New York Times, not even running the story of selling access while Secretary of State, which the New York Times has not done, then that's what they're going to do. And you'll note nobody is talking about that. All anybody can talk about, will Trump's supporters abandon him? Will Trump's supporters finally see the light? Will Trump's supporters realize he doesn't know what he's talking about? Will Trump's supporters realize he's lying to them? Will Trump's supporters realize he's making a fool? All those questions are being asked. Because you've got two contingencies here, or two contingent groups. You've got some people who think Trump's supporters can be separated from him. And you've got others who know that they can't be. And in both instances, and I'm talking about drive-bys and media types, they want to illustrate that. They want to illustrate that Trump's supporters will not abandon him, and the other contingent wants to keep trying to see if they can make it happen. They're obsessed. But over here is Hillary Clinton with a bunch of mind-numbed robots that are supporting her no matter what they learn about her. In addition to what they already know that they bury about her. One more soundbite from Fox News, and we'll take a brief timeout. David Asman back to the Republican fundraiser, Noel Nickberg. Noel, it does appear that Trump has been improving a bit in the polls. since he has begun to soften his tone. That means bringing in people other than just his base, doesn't it? Isn't that what it means?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's already got his loyal supporters, and that's not going to change, and Rush is right. But where he needs to be presidential and appear a little bit, down the middle, especially when he talks about immigration, this is where he's winning over some of these Republicans that said never Trump.
Right. That's the side of this that few people are talking. Everybody's focusing on, my God, Trump is making fools of his supporters. Oh, my God, Trump is flip-flopping right in front of him. Oh, my God, Trump's making fools. No. Trump's actually maybe building his base a little bit. Possibly. I mean, the polling data is all over the place. I mean, you can find a poll that shows Trump losing ground. You can find Hillary winning in double-digit landslides. But if you take the aggregate, you see them close. Well, not close, but they're getting tighter. Hillary's losing a little over here. Trump's gaining a little over there, and particularly in the battleground states. Now, here's another good test market question for Trump supporters. This is last night. We're up to audio soundbite number 6. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling the broadcast engineer. Jackson, Mississippi, campaign event, teleprompter. Out of the blue, Trump.
Hillary Clinton is a bigot who sees people of color only as votes, not as human beings worthy of a better future.
Did you hear that crowd reaction? Now, it was mixed. There was a lot of support for it, and there was shock. And in fact, if you saw it on screen left to Trump's right as he's standing there, there's a woman. I think she's wearing a white dress. She's brunette. And the moment that Trump says Hillary Clinton is a bigot, her face contorts in such a way that you can tell she doesn't know if she's supposed to clap or not. She doesn't know at that moment whether she's supposed to applaud this or not. But this crowd ate it up. You go to the drive-bys, that's just so unbecoming a presidential candidate. That's just not the kind of words we want to hear. That's so beneath what we are all accustomed. You just don't do that. You don't see that. You don't see one candidate calling another candidate a bigot, particularly liberal Democrat. But Trump did. And I know Hillary's been calling him worse than that for weeks, but that's okay because that's the conventional wisdom that Trump is unsuited, he's unfit, has the right temperament, any of that. Hillary did react to this, by the way. We'll have that for you right after this, folks. Don't go away. Now, one thing I need to add. This is not the first time Trump has called her a bigot. Yeah. I'm sure you remember the other time. So why are the drive-bys going nuts? So why now? I'll tell you exactly why. It's because Trump all week has been making the case to African-American voters that the Democrat Party is taking them for granted, underutilizing them, failing to come through on their promises. Trump is tackling that head on while assuring them that he will actually improve things for them. And this is a sacred ground. You're not supposed to. There's no Republican ever who is supposed to ever try to get the black vote. The Democrats are considered to own that. It's theirs, and you're not even supposed to try for it. And here's Trump now in the middle of a full, solid week's effort of outreach. They're offended, they're angry, and a little bit worried. So now they focus on Trump calling her a bigot, and Mrs. Clinton responded to it last night on Anderson Cooper.
Donald Trump has shown us who he is, and we ought to believe him. He is taking a hate movement mainstream. He's brought it into his campaign. He's bringing it to our communities and our countries. And, someone who's questioned the citizenship of the first African-American president, who has courted white supremacists, who's been sued for housing discrimination against communities of color, who's attacked a judge for his Mexican heritage and promised a mass deportation force, is someone who is, very much peddling bigotry and prejudice and paranoia.
Well, it's quite a laundry list of things that Hillary has there, but she left out the things that she really should be focusing on. And that is, he's unfit, he's a wrong temperament, doesn't have the qualifications. I mean, that's her thrust. That's the primary point that she's been out there trying to make. She was off message. You know why? Because this was written down. She cannot rattle all that off, I don't think, from her memory. She's on the phone, so nobody can see her. She's on the phone with Anderson Cooper, and I think reading from a cheat sheet, and somebody forgot to tell her to include the fact, which their main campaign thrust is, that Trump's not qualified, is unsuited, and all that. We'll be back. We're going to get back to the phones when we get back, so sit tight. Okay, back to the phones. We go to St. Peters, Missouri. Scott, glad you waited, sir. You're next on the program. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, Rush. I had a question for you. I wondered, do you make a distinction between people who are voting or will vote for Donald Trump and those who support him? I listened to your show, and you use different terms at different times. I'm just wondering if you see a distinction there.
I don't know. When I'm talking about the Trump supporters, such as I have today, I'm talking about actual supporters, not passive people just going to vote for him for the heck of it.
So the folks who are voting for Trump, not supporters, do you view them as anti-Hillary votes?
They're made up of a whole lot of different people. Voting for Trump are doing so for a whole lot of different reasons. But I think there is a typical Trump voter. I think they're there for specific reasons. I don't think there's. Who do you think these? What is the difference in a Trump voter and a Trump supporter to you?
Well, I think a Trump voter is someone who a year ago would not have voted for Donald Trump, but today will, simply for pragmatic reasons.
And what's a Trump supporter? Somebody's been with him from the day he announced?
I think people, and I think that's a smaller group, but I think there are people who've been with Trump from the beginning.
Well, I think they're the majority of them, in fact. But I'm trying to. What is the? You obviously think there's enough of a difference between a Trump voter and a Trump supporter. You have a point to make about this. What is it?
It really was a question. I wondered if you saw a difference because of the different terms that you use when we're talking about Trump support and the election.
I'm not aware of using different terms. I guess that's my. Are you talking when I use Trumpist and a Trumper?
Yeah, Trumpists and the Trumpers. Yeah,
a Trumpist is just a term to describe. It sounds better than Trumper to me. A Trumpist makes them sound intellectual. A Trumpist is a devoted supporter and understands what he or she is doing. A Trumper, it's just different sounding, better sounding, I think. I've even had some Trumpists tell me they don't like the term. They think it's derogatory. Well, I got a friend in Hawaii who's a huge, huge Trumpist, but doesn't like that term, tries to talk me out of it, which just makes me use it all the more. But no, don't draw any inferences from the different ways I describe. I think most Trump supporters, look, what you're basically asking me is active versus passive. And I'll give you what that means. I'll define that for you in terms of radio listeners. You get into an elevator and there's music playing. You hear it, but you're not into it. That is passive. The television sets on while the family's sitting around having dinner or talking. Nobody's watching TV. It's there. They're aware of it, but they're not participating. That's passive. You're in the car. You're talking to somebody. The radio's on. Music's playing. You're not really listening to it. You're aware of it. That's passive. There is no passive listenership to this program. That's what makes it good. When you listen to this program, you are 100% engaged. You are active. And I think most people supporting voting Trump are actively engaged in the campaign. I think they're actively engaged in supporting Trump, and I think they have active reasons for it. Now, there are passive Trump supporters. I'm not going to deny that. But I'm not talking about them when I analyze what a Trump supporter is going to do, say, in a circumstance where Trump maybe flip-flops or makes it look like he's going to flip-flop. I'm not really addressing the passive Trump supporter. The passive Trump supporter is a Trump supporter because not going to vote for Hillary, would never vote for a Democrat. The active Trump supporter is the Trumpist, who can tell you exactly why. And if you tell the active Trump supporter that you don't, he will try to convince you to change your mind. That's an active Trump voter or supporter. Every candidate has passive support. It's just people that are going to vote for him no matter. There's an R by his name, so they're going to get the vote. Hillary has a lot of passive support. In fact, I think most of Hillary's support is passive. You want to know the truth? What is there to get excited about? Now, granted, this is from our perspective. To me, there's nothing to get excited about with Hillary Clinton. I mean, maybe there's things to get excited about in terms of scared of in terms of opposition. But I don't think Hillary has this large army of devoted fans willing to go through fire for her. She's got some. She's got the feminazis, and she has certain other groups where the leaders of the group make up the active support. But I think a lot of my evidence for this is Hillary has a book. She writes a book. She does book signings, and nobody shows up. Hillary does not have a connection with her voters like Trump has with his. She's got people who like her, and she's got support because she's a woman. And she has support because she's Mrs. Clinton. She has support because she's a Democrat. There are some women, we have to admit this, there are some women who support her simply because they think it's great that a woman might be elected president for the first time. But in terms of active, gee, I really want Hillary because I can't wait how she's going to make America better. I believe in Hillary so much. She's got so many great ideas. She's got such great plans. I don't know how strong all of that is with her. That's why I've always thought she's vulnerable. It's why I've never been afraid of her. But I'm telling you, I'm in a minority there on the Republican side. I can't tell you over the years the number of people I've run into, literally scared to death. And I think it's results from the presumption, or I should say the assumption of unmitigated raw power the woman has. And people are very much worried about the Nurse Ratched characteristics of her personality. In fact, I'll tell you this. I think the people that oppose her are more actively opposed to her than she has active supporters. Now, you might think this is crazy. I can say something. What are you talking about? Rush, look at her leading the polls. I know, folks. But I think Bernie Sanders would be doing just as well. And I'll tell you, if Bernie Sanders were the nominee, the Democrat campaign would have 10 times the energy it has. If Bernie Sanders were the nominee, wherever he went, the crowds would be big, and you'd be scared to death of him. You would be worried sick. There'd be so much energy, and those people would be running around, and they'd be doing nothing but working for, campaigning for, marching for, protesting for Bernie Sanders. None of that is ever going to happen for Hillary unless they pay for it, unless they buy it. And it's for this reason that I've always thought she could be beaten. Now, not to say the loyalty to her is weak. The loyalty to her is party loyalty. And she has, by the way, she has a lot of support simply based on the fact that we are despised, folks. Conservatives, Republicans are literally hated irrationally and inexplicably. But even that does not mean that those people actively, energetically love and support and are invested in Hillary Clinton. I don't believe there is that much of that. Now, when it comes to Trump supporters, most of his voters are active. They are engaged and they are invested and they are doing everything they can to see to it that the guy is going to win. And I also believe there's a whole bunch of them that we don't know exist. I don't know how much of a Trump effect there is. You know, the Wilder effect, Doug Wilder, black candidate running for governor in Virginia. The polls all said the guy was going to win in a landslide. Turned out not to be true. The explanation was that a bunch of people had lied to pollsters. They had told pollsters that they were going to vote for Wilder so that the pollster would not think that they're racists. So they lied and said, yeah, I'm voting Wilder, who happened to be African American, but in truth, they didn't. So, excuse me, on the Trump side, I don't know if there's a Trump effect where people do support Trump but are afraid to say so because they don't want to be lectured or criticized or made fun of or thought of poorly by the pollster. No way of knowing that. I do, though, think that there are Trump supporters that nobody knows. I don't know how many. I don't know if it's a significant number to make a difference. And I think they're also, they obviously would appear to be passive, but I think in their hearts they're very excited and invested, which is why I've always thought Hillary, I don't mean to be repetitive here, but this is the basis for my theory that Hillary can be beaten. It's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of Democrats and there's a lot of Democrat loyalty and there's a lot of hatred for us. And if she had all of this active, personally invested, energetic support, it would be almost impossible to beat her. But she doesn't have that. She can't draw flies to an appearance. The people that do show up appear to be zombies. There doesn't appear to be, I guess the best way to say this for me, there doesn't appear to be any evidence, like there was with Bernie Sanders, that she is actually not. If it weren't for the superdelegates, she wouldn't be the nominee. You get right down to it, the odds are. Anyway, I appreciate the call. This is a great example of a caller making a host look good. He had no idea he was going to do that. He thought he was going to stump me. But see how this stuff works out? It's really great. Talent on loan from God. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. Once again, evidence that my instincts right on the money. This is from a website called UCSD News. I don't know what that is. But what they're doing at this website is publishing something from the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry. And here's the bottom line. Older adults are happier. Exactly what I have always witnessed. Exactly what I have always known. Exactly what I have never feared, and that is getting older. And here it is, yet another story coming down the pike, documenting. Because I always, I've shared with you over the course of the history of the program, when I was 15, wanted to be 20, 20 wanted to be 25, because no matter what age I was, people older than I seemed happier, they seemed adjusted, they seemed successful, they seemed stable, rooted, what have you. In other words, to me, it looked like life got better with age, and that had a calming effect on people. And that's essentially what this story points out. I knew it was true. Just more evidence. Don't doubt me. Here is Bobby, Jacksonville, Florida. Great that you waited, sir. Hello.
Good afternoon, Rush. Long-time listener, big-time fan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you having me on. Just wanted to say to our brave men who fought over there in Benghazi, do you think Hillary might have done something if they would have contributed possibly to her foundation?
I had to pause there for a second. Normally the reaction to you would be, that's cheap. How dare you, Bobby? Of course. But you have to stop and think. If the Benghazi family had donated to Hillary, look, I'll tell you why the question is worth it. Because it brings home how Hillary operates. And it does say, wow, that's so beyond good taste. How in the world? But that's exactly how she operates, and it illustrates that. That's the kind of question that gives people pause. I mean, the instinctive reaction is, don't be silly. You really believe that Hillary Clinton would have sent some forces in to defend them if she knew they were donors? And the cynic asking that question, the minute the question's out of his mouth, pauses. Because it's well within the realm of possibility, given everything we know about Hillary. They sell access to everything else. Interesting. I appreciate it, Bobby. Quick timeout. Much more straight ahead here on the EIB Network. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you. El Rushbo and the EIB Network. Have you heard about the controversy over the cost of the EpiPen? I bet there's something you don't know about this. Hillary Clinton is out raising hell over the price, the skyrocketing cost of EpiPens. These are these things you shoot epinephrine into somebody that needs a jolt, peanut allergy or some such thing, whatever it caused. This is an immediate fix for it. And the price for these devices has skyrocketed 400% recently. And yet ABC and CBS, in talking about this, have failed to identify the pharmaceutical company involved. And there's a reason why. And not only that's NBC as well. ABC, CBS, NBC have neglected to reveal that Mylan Pharmaceuticals, manufacturer of the EpiPens, has partnered in the past for medical aid with the Clinton Foundation. It's rumored that Hillary might need one of these now and then. Well, the CEO of the company is the daughter of Democrat Senator Joe Manchin. So you have the daughter of a West Virginia senator, the daughter of a Democrat senator, price gouging 400%, and nobody in the drive-bys is making that connection. That it's the daughter of a Democrat senator that's the CEO of the pharmaceutical company. Back in just a second. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Rush Limbaugh, an excellent role model for the youths of America. Man, you could and would trust implicitly as we meet and surpass all audience expectations daily. Great to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. So Julian Assange of WikiLeaks was on Fox last night. He was on Megyn Kelly's show. And he's portrayed as the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks. And Megyn Kelly said, hey, Julian, I understand that you're sitting on some stuff, that you have more Hillary emails, more Hillary documents, and that you've got more to release. And I'm watching this. It's kind of surreal. Because Julian Assange, the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, I mean, making it sound like it's this massively big organization. You know where Julian Assange is? He has been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 5 years. And do you know why he's holed up there? They have an arrest warrant on sexual charges for him in Sweden or some such place. Maybe it's Switzerland, I don't know. But if he goes anywhere and gets nabbed, they can extradite him back to wherever these charges are. So he's been holed up in the Ecuadorian assembly or embassy for 5 years. So I don't know what he's editor-in-chief of. I mean, WikiLeaks, obviously a website, but he says that he's got game-changer stuff yet to come. And she asked him, well, when's it coming? And he said, well, we're working around the clock. You know, I listen when people say things. I mean, to me, words matter. We are working around the clock. Doing what? What would you be doing working around the clock regarding Hillary? Are you still collecting data? Are you still out there hacking? Is that what you're doing? I mean, WikiLeaks is a bunch of hackers. And in addition to that, there are hackers who provide WikiLeaks. In fact, it's the Russians who are said to be among Julian Assange's sources. That's why Trump said that maybe the Russians can find Hillary's missing emails. And Julian Assange claims to have stuff that could destroy her. I mean, that's no, not his words, but that's the impression he left last night, which is kind of puzzling because Julian Assange, I think he's Australian, if I'm not mistaken. And Julian Assange is an anti-war guy. I mean, that's his ideological framing foundation is anti-war, which would mean that he would more than likely be inclined to support leftists. But you see, this illustrates another Hillary Clinton vulnerability. One of the reasons that Crazy Bernie had so much raucous support is that there are Democrats. You understand what happened. You understand. You have to remember. The media and the Democrat Party, during the last 4 years of George W. Bush's term, they ginned up the most irrational, frothing hatred of the Iraq War and the War on Terror. They ginned up so much hatred and so much disgust that it survives to this day. The hatred for Bush is just as front and center as it was when he was in the White House, and ditto for the Iraq War. Now, it took the media 4 years pummeling on Bush and the war every day to drive his approval numbers down to the 30s, but they did it. But the process of doing so created this irrational, genuinely irrational hatred for the Iraq War and for Bush. The problem for Hillary is that she voted for it. And she's on record often as being supportive of it and of the use of the military in certain circumstances, which to the mainstream left, which is now extreme Cookville, makes her a warmonger in their view. And that's another reason why support for her is soft. And I think if you're wondering, why would Julian Assange want to take Hillary Clinton out? It would seem that Hillary Clinton would be more to his liking than Donald Trump or anybody. He's not an American. He's not voting, but he wants to have an impact on our election. Oh, and that's another thing. There are a lot of people running around. This is just unconscionable that somebody like this, who's been holed up for 5 years in an embassy in London because he dare not show his face in public and have such an impact on the American presidential election. Well, why could he? What in the world is it that might enable Julian Assange to have any impact on the presidential race? And what the answer to that is strictly he may have information about Hillary that she's trying to keep hidden. Which takes us back to yesterday. with a question that I echoed from Michael Goodwin, the New York Post. Just what is the explanation for everything that they did with the foundation, with the private server, selling access? All of that we know. But is there something we don't know that she's trying to keep hidden? I mean, what more could Julian Assange have? What else is there that could do further damage? Doesn't it seem that whatever there is, we already know? We know the emails. We know some of the content of the emails. We know she was selling access. It's worse than that. She was selling access. She was selling out the U.S. as Secretary of State, and she was accepting payment as Secretary of State on the come for her future presidency. So people have already been able to buy influence should she make it to the White House. Okay, we know all that. Well, what else could Assange have? What else is there? What more damage can be done? I mean, I think what we know now, anybody else, they'd be finished. Clearly, if this were a Republican, put any Republican Secretary of State in there. You know, Colin Powell, Condoleezza. Oh, if this were Condoleezza Rice, she would be in jail. The Democrats would have not stopped until they had her in jail over this. So Hillary has skated so far. What else is there? Well, Julian Assange thinks that he has whatever it is. Now, we also have to acknowledge that he could just be saying this because he likes the attention and wants people to be paying attention to WikiLeaks. Time will tell. Now, back to this EpiPen for a second. This is really fascinating on a number of levels. Mylan Pharmaceuticals manufactures the EpiPen. The cost of one of these EpiPens has skyrocketed 400% recently. It's a classic example of the things the left said we needed Obamacare for. We got to keep these out-of-control corporations in check. Oh, they don't care about their patients. They don't care about their customers. They'd be just as fine if they died as long as the patients pay for them for the medicine. They don't care. That's that whole line from the left about evil corporations, how they kill their customers. They don't care. They rape them financially. Well, here's one that apparently has. And the company behind the EpiPen, it's Mylan Pharmaceuticals, has partnered with the Clinton Foundation on numerous projects. The Mylan Pharmaceutical Company has donated money to the Clinton Foundation. It might be pronounced Mylan. It's M-Y-L-A-N. Some kind of combining pronunciations. I don't want to be wrong about it, but I haven't seen it pronounced anywhere. Now, the CEO of Mylan Pharmaceuticals, the CEO is the daughter of Joe Manchin, who happens to be a Democrat senator from West Virginia. And for some reason, the drive-by media have ignored both of these details reporting on the EpiPen story. They have ignored the ties that Mylan Pharmaceutical has with the Clinton Foundation, and they have ignored the ties that the CEO has to a Democrat senator, i.e., she is his daughter. Now, according to the New York Post, records available on the website of the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation reveal that Mylan, the company that manufactures the EpiPen, has donated up to $250,000. Also, the company behind EpiPen, Mylan, has partnered with the foundation on projects and donated money to various projects in addition to the foundation. What else here? On Wednesday, Clinton released a statement blasting her foundation's donors. She said, over the last several years, Mylan Pharmaceuticals has increased the price of EpiPens by more than 400%. That's outrageous. And it's just the latest troubling example of a company taking advantage of its consumers. It's exactly what the left says about every corporation. I don't care if it's big oil, big pharma, big retail, big whatever. She said it's wrong when drug companies put profits ahead of patients, raising prices without justifying the value behind them. Well, then here's a chance for the Clinton Foundation to actually step up and do something. Why don't the Clinton Foundation, why don't they stand up? Here's what they could do. Hillary and Bill could announce a press conference and tell everybody that they are going to give away EpiPens to everyone who needs one in the next 2 or 3 weeks out of embarrassment for the fact that this company is a huge donor to the Clinton Foundation and has given them $250,000 when that money could have been used to make the product cheaper. I mean, if the Clintons really want to demonstrate the good, have you ever asked yourself, here's this massive foundation. It exists ostensibly to do good charitable works. Why do we not ever hear of any of those good works? In Louisiana, the floods, perfect opportunity for the Clinton Foundation to get in gear and go down there and help out. Didn't happen. The cynical view is, well, there's really not a whole lot of money to be scored down there because the Clintons show up and leave with money. They don't leave money, they leave with it. But now that we know that Mylan Pharmaceutical, huge supporter of Hillary, huge supporter of the Clinton Foundation, is ripping off customers with the price of the EpiPen, a great opportunity for Hillary to put some distance between herself and the company and announce some great... And they don't even think of it. No, they don't have to. I'm just saying it could go a long way to mitigating some of the damage. But the Clintons are just... It wouldn't happen. They don't give away their own money. Try hard not to, anyway. Brief time out, my friends. We continue in mere moments. Don't go away. Donald Trump's in Manchester, New Hampshire, in the midst of a campaign rally. He's on the teleprompter. We're going to join a little bit of it in progress right now.
She created a private... She created a private, illegal email server in order to hide her corrupt dealings. That's all it is, folks. Very simple. She knew what she was doing 100%. She did so knowing full well it would put American lives at risk by making classified information highly vulnerable to foreign hacking. And that's what happened. And by the way, people that did 2% of what she did, their lives have been destroyed.
That's true.
But she didn't care.
Nope.
As long as it helped her get away with her crime, no risk to America was too great. It didn't matter to her. And now she's running for president.
I didn't know that.
Then, to further cover up her crime, she deleted 33,000 emails to keep them out of the hands of the authorities and the American public. As a further element of the criminal cover-up, she claimed, under penalty of perjury, that she turned over all of her work-related emails. We now know this to be one more massive Clinton lie and deception. The FBI found thousands of work-related emails she failed to turn over, including the new discovery this week of 15,000 more work-related emails she did not disclose. What is being uncovered now is one of the most shocking scandals in American political history. It's Watergate all over again. It's Watergate.
Oh. Donald Trump in Manchester, New Hampshire. We're jipping it for a while to see where it goes on teleprompter.
She's being totally protected by our government. A Secretary of State sold her office to corporations and foreign governments.
Here we go.
Betraying the public trust, putting innocent lives in danger.
Yes.
And then she went to great lengths to hide, delete, destroy, and lie about the evidence. Just like her lie that she never sent any material marked classified. Total lie. Lie after lie after lie.
Crooked Hillary.
This is the corruption we expect to see in a third world country, but not in the United States of America.
Crowd is loaded for bear, folks. You can hear it.
Just imagine the damage to our security, to our integrity, to our standing in the world. And believe me, the world is laughing as they watch. If Hillary Clinton is allowed to sell the Oval Office in the same way she sold her office as Secretary of State, and she can't help herself.
She's already been doing it.
We cannot let this happen. Can't let it happen. We must vote on November 8th to keep the American government from being sold to the highest bidder.
She's already doing it. She's already doing it.
Vote to save your country. So important. So important. You folks have no idea how important you are in this room and in this state. So important.
There you go. That's every appearance.
And by
something
the way,
like
folks,
that happens.
If you're looking at the poll numbers, take a look. We're doing very well.
The connection right there. That's how he does it. Everybody misses that,
Very
but
well.
that.
So vote to protect your family. Vote for honesty, integrity, and accountability. Now, as all of these revelations have been discovered, some this week, many this month, Hillary Clinton has been hiding. She's been hiding. Where is she? Although I hear, for the first time in a long time, she'll be making some kind of a quick statement tonight.
Oh, actually,
but she's emerging
in about a half hour.
To take the responsibility for her unethical and criminal conduct, but instead to make one of the most brazen attempts at distraction in the history of politics. Now, I've not seen what Hillary is going to say, but I've heard about it. And in a sense, I don't want to dignify her statements by dwelling on them too much.
Okay, we got to bump out, but I think what he's referring to here is she's got a video out, an ad that pretty much claims that Trump has got the support of the KKK and is white supremacists and racists are behind his candidacy. And so she's in Reno. She's going to be speaking in about a half hour. By the way, folks, this Julian Assange story, for lack of a better word, on Megyn Kelly last night, claiming he's got all kinds of stuff yet to drop on Hillary that could be a game changer. This is an illustration of how easy it could potentially be to blackmail her. I mean, who knows why some of these people have given her money? Who knows what they are expecting for it? We've got potentates from oil states in the Middle East. We have money coming in from nations and people that have ties to terrorists and terrorism. And there's some upstanding people, I guess, too. But you just never know what these people giving money are going to expect for it. But they're going to expect something. And by the same token, as I so cleverly mentioned yesterday, this stuff goes both ways. These people donate to Hillary, but she can demand things from them because she has accepted their money. Okay, I'll do this for you. You've paid me. I'll do this for you. she will say. But the day might come when I will call you, and I will need something from you. This stuff is really sleazy. It is beyond the pale, what she has done. And she's trying to head this off at the pass. She's trying to preempt this. Now, Trump, when we had to break away from covering his appearance in Manchester, New Hampshire, he made reference to the fact that Hillary is going to be speaking soon. She's in Reno. She's scheduled to speak in 25 minutes. And he said he didn't want to dignify what she's going to say by talking about it and reacting to it. Well, what it is, she's got an ad that is running, and it ties Trump to the KKK, to the Ku Klux Klan. Now, what the ad is, it's got a guy wearing the pointed hat and the robes. He's identified as the Imperial Wizard of the Rebel Brigade Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And in this video that is a Hillary ad, he says the reason a lot of Klan members like Donald Trump is because a lot of what Trump believes, we believe. And there's a Confederate flag fluttering in the wind, Trump waving after a speech, and a guy performing a Hitler salute at what appears to be a Trump rally. That is the ad that Hillary is running. Now, I don't know if this Klan guy is a legit Klan guy or an actor, but Hillary is running the ad. Now, Trump just called Hillary a bigot because she only views minorities as voting blocs. This ad was in existence long before it was in production and planning stage, long before he called her a bigot. He's called her a bigot based on her and the rest of the Democrat Party just using African Americans, taking them for granted, promising them things they never deliver on, and then scaring them every day about what will happen to them if they don't vote Democrat, warning them of all the perils and pitfalls that await them if they don't elect Democrats. Now, whatever, I mean, you can think of that whatever you will. I happen to think that there's a lot of truth to it. I think the Democrats do take the African-American vote for granted. And I think the Democrat Party has stunted the African-American population. I think the Democrat Party, using big government, has become the father in way too many African-American families. And not just African-American, but other minorities as well. Okay, agree with that or not. But that's nothing compared to running an ad comparing somebody to the KKK, bringing out some Klan member. The Klan was the military wing of the Democrat Party back in the segregation days. The Ku Klux Klan is a Democrat entity. It has always been. In fact, there was even a member of the Ku Klux Klan in the United States Senate. His name was Robert Byrd, and he was a Democrat from West Virginia. And the ad is despicable. You know, you want to talk about new lows in American politics or the politics of personal destruction, but this, and I don't know if this is a legit Klan guy, and I don't know how the Clintons would know him. Okay, so you got this legitimate Kleagle, Beagle, whatever, the Klan, and the Clintons know how to get in touch with the guy? Make an ad out, or did this guy just happen to make a speech somewhere where the Clintons happened to get hold of the video of it? But it's a little bit too convenient, isn't it? Some Klan member. The Klan has to know that they don't help anybody. So here's the Klan, this Kleagle Beagle member standing up singing the virtues of Donald Trump. Now, I think the whole thing is suspect. But that's, I think, what Trump was alluding to. And now we know that Hillary played a race card, and we know the Democrats play the female victim card. But for somebody that's running way ahead, I mean, for the Democrat Party's putting it out there, they think the race is over, that they're basically coasting, that all they have to do is not make any mistakes. They don't have to be aggressive because Trump's imploding. Why run something like this if you're that confident? that you're going to win and win big. Here's Jeremy Mayfield, Kentucky. Glad you waited, sir. You're next on the Rush Limbaugh program. Hi.
Hey, good afternoon, Rush. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yes, sir, you are.
So I have a question and a comment on Hillary addressing in her speech today the support that Trump receives from what she calls the alternate right. And how do you think that this is going to affect his campaign? And then I also wanted to see what your definition of alternate right is, because I asked for a definition because, I'm a traditional Christian paleo conservative. I'm for pro-life, traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and America First policies, which consist of non-intervention, fair trade, and immigration control. So these are all my views, and a lot of conservative Christians share that view. And this would have been the mainstream view in pre-1965 America, and now it's considered almost a counterculture view. Whereas, back in the baby boomer generation, the neoconservatives today would have been considered counterculture. So how do you define alternative right?
Well, it depends. It really depends who you're talking to. I've seen a host of definitions of the alt-right. The two things that I associate with the alt-right, the wrong way to say it. The things that I have heard critics of the alt-right say it is, A, white supremacists and nationalists, populists and nationalists. Not conservative. That's why it's alt-right. It's considered to be negative. Alt-right's got a negative connotation to it among its critics. I don't think the alt-right is strictly the way you described yourself. The way you describe yourself is essentially the way Selena Zito, in that op-ed in the Pittsburgh paper I mentioned a couple of days ago, driving through Pennsylvania to the towns that are not major population centers. That's basically the people that she was describing that had Trump signs in their front yards and backyards and along the streets, and she saw hundreds of them. And I don't think she's talking about alt-right people. What do you think alt-right is? What have you heard people say of it, or what is your impression of it?
As I look it up, I see a large spectrum naming the groups that you've named. But as people with my views see aggressive immigration and the fact that the left wants us to take in all of these refugees, we see a point where we as European Americans may need a voice, just like you have a voice for all other ethnicities. All ethnicities should have a chance to voice their needs and should be able to prosper. And European Americans are no different. And if we continue this immigration on the route that the left wants it to go, especially Hillary Clinton, I believe that we're going to be soon minority.
Let me. What we're dealing with here within that framework that you just described, you call it European. I forget what term you used, but the left. It would really help if everybody tried to understand that the modern American left does not like America as founded. They believe it was founded unjustly, immorally, that it was a slave state and it was rigged against all minorities. It was set up for rich white people to remain in power in perpetuity. It's what they really think of the American founding. And it is their objective. Obama, when he talks about transforming America, is what it means. It means transferring power to all of the various minorities as a means of paying them back for all the grief they've suffered at the misfortune of being born in the United States. And as such, the method whereby they accomplish this is to portray themselves as open-minded and compassionate and tolerant, and they portray every one of these groups as victims of America. And they have succeeded in persuading a lot of millennials that they're right. There is a lot of white guilt running around out there now. White privilege is prevalent, the problem of white privilege on college campuses and so forth. So they've been very successful in this. And I think that's what you are noticing. So the alt-right, in their view, would be made up of people where the white supremacism charge enters, along with populism and nationalism. And basically just trying to portray you as your time has passed. You guys are old-fashioned fuddy-duddies. You're from an America that was unjust when it existed, and we're never going to go back to it again. We're finally getting it right. And you guys had your day, and just slink away now and forget it. And it's the modus operandi of how the left is attempting to win minds and hearts here on the basis of compassion and understanding and tolerance of victims and paying them back for all the suffering they've had to endure. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Jeremy. Brief timeout. We'll be back with much more after this. Okay, grab soundbite number 23. We've got the ad. Now, folks, I'm not sure. I've not seen this. This is the first I've had it. I've got the transcript here. It's a minute. It's a 1-minute ad. I don't know how much of this lends itself to audio. We're going to discover this together. It looks like the transcript I've got is one sentence. So I'm hoping there's more to this than just one sentence. But if that's all there is, well, don't worry. If it's all just music and we can't see anything, then I'm not going to waste your time on this. So let's see. This is Hillary's Klan ad. Let's see what this says.
The reason a lot of Klan members like Donald Trump is because a lot of what he believes, we believe in. Donald Trump would be best for the job.
For president.
Yeah.
I am a farmer and white nationalist. Support Donald Trump.
Sending out all the illegals, building a wall, and a moratorium on Islamic immigration. That's very appealing to a lot of ordinary white people.
Voting against Donald Trump at this point is really treason to your heritage.
Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists?
I don't know anything about white supremacists, so I don't know.
Trump named Steve Bannon as his new campaign CEO. Mr. Bannon is best known for his controversial Breitbart News, a campaign chair that ran a website that has become a field day for the alt-right, which is racist, and all sorts of other ists.
The alt-right, which is the sort of dressed up in suits version of the neo-Nazi and white supremacist movements.
Oh, is that what there's
a lot of what he believes, we believe in.
So the alt-right is dressed up Nazism wearing Klan robes. Breitbart is alt-right? Is that what they're trying to say here? That Trump Bart News is part of the alt-right? They're a bunch of white supremacists? These people are full of it. That's what they do. Any branch that they think is right-wing is automatically going to get tagged as racist. So that's the Hillary ad that features the Ku Klux Klan Grand Beaver Kleagle doing whatever he's doing, talking about, oh, man, that Trump guy is everything we believe in, Trump believes in. That's exactly right. Desperation time, apparently, for the Clinton campaign. I wonder if Hillary Clinton realizes that she just called pretty much everybody who wants to vote for Trump a sympathizer with the Ku Klux Klan and a Nazi. I wonder if she realizes. She has to realize that, right? She has to not care, right?
We stay where the music plays, where the lights drop below, where the people
déghetto del cucci